Welcome to another quick review from Ultimate DIY, and today we are going to take a look at a blowtorch made by Welding. All right, guys, ever since I was a little boy, I was fascinated with fire and fascinated with blowtorches, flamethrowers. I always thought those were the coolest things, especially playing with, toys like G.I. Joes and stuff with their little flamethrowers. Well, this is no exception. This is an awesome tool. And generally, what you're going to use this the most for is cleaning out weeds and things like that, especially over driveways and any place you have like brick and things and rock, and you're trying to kill these, you know, weeds and growths down to the root. This works very well for that because generally when you burn it like that, the root and everything dies. So instead of having to use some type of herbicide, you can actually use fire. Now this is going to hook up with a hose, and this is 11.5 feet long, by the way, but it's going to hook up with that hose to a tank, just like what you have on your grill. So you're going to use propane, hook it up, and you can actually carry that tank around. And by the way, there are tank holders that you can wear basically on your back like a backpack, and you can carry that tank around and you can cover a lot of distance. Be sure you stay tuned to the end because I'm going to go ahead and go out and demonstrate this too. So we're not just going to talk about it. We're going to go out and we're going to burn some weeds, and we're going to try a couple of different scenarios. Now I'm going to tell you, I did find an issue with this, and it is in the actual little handle, the little turbo handle or the turbo button, or whatever you want to call that. And there is a way around it, and I'm going to show you and be a little bit more thorough on that because there is a way to make it work perfect every time. This unit, it's going to come with the actual handle itself down here. It has an extension here, and then this is going to be the top. Now this extension you do not have to use. You can actually set this aside and shorten it if you like. It also has the little holder, so you can put it on the ground, have it running a little bit and up off the ground if you need to do it. If you're having to grab something else like a water hose or whatever, and you don't want to shut it off right away. The igniter is already going to be installed. It's right here. And you have the actual flamethrower itself down here. So when you get the unit, this piece will be separate. This is off. The front is all by itself off. The hose is here, and you can put your holder on. You can either use the holder or not use it. That's totally up to you. A couple of the things I want to point out. This hose is 11.5 feet long. Like I said, it's going to give you a lot of range. But when you go to feed this hose in, this connection back here is reverse threaded. So if you're trying to thread it and it's not working, it's because it's reverse threaded. You have to go the opposite direction. Instead of righty-tighty to get it on, you're going to go left. Now this one on the other end is the same thing. Now if you're used to using a grill tank, they usually have a big old knob that goes over the top and cranks down. This one goes inside, and it has a little seal that holds it here, and you crank it in. Now I will tell you, be cautious when you're putting it on. This is brass, so it's very heavy duty, but you do not want to cross thread this. So be nice and gentle, kind of go back the other direction for a second and then turn it. Make sure you've got the threads lined up correctly. If you do start having a leaking problem, it's going to be generally that you either have it cross threaded and it's not tightened down all the way, or this little gasket on here is wearing out. Luckily, they give you a backup gasket, so if you have a problem, you've got a new one here. This is a plastic hose. You do not want to drag it through the flames, and you're sitting there with a huge gas source. So be very cautious when you're working with this. Hold it up. You'll probably see me a couple of times while I'm working holding this hose up and making sure it's behind my flame and the flame is nowhere near the hose. They're also going to give you a couple of tools to be able to tighten everything down. Now, I will tell you the correct way to put this holder on is going to have it all the way up here next to this little tying nut here. So your middle piece that you can leave on or off, you're going to have it at the end of that one. And I like to have this adjuster here facing down to the ground, so I'm not hitting my turbo if I set it down on the ground and causing a turbo flash. So it's going to be like that with this end up off the ground so that you're not burning things on the ground when you set it down, if it happens to be burning when you set it down. Or if it is still hot, because you have been burning, so you don't get things caught on fire simply by just setting this down on the ground. That is your sparker. The other thing here is going to be the adjustment with either positive or negative, and this is going to control the amount of gas that naturally comes through the gun, even without the turbo.
All right, so some of the footage I'm going to show up in the corner right now, I was actually working in a higher area of grass, and I was having trouble because I had this thing cranked up too high, and when you would use the trigger, it would just stick and it would blow itself out. Blowing itself out means it's getting way too much gas and way too much pressure. So you can control that with the knob down here, but the biggest part is controlling the tank. Don't open it all the way up like you would, say, a gas grill. You're just going to barely turn it on so you get just a little bit of gas, and then you'll just barely crank this on and hit the igniter. And then you should be able to actually adjust the tank pressure a little bit and get it to where it will not blow out. That's the way it worked for me. Once I figured that out, it works great. Now keep in mind the grass here and the ground is extremely wet and muddy. We've had big thunderstorms. That's why it's a great day to experiment with this and see how it works. Keep in mind though, you probably want to keep a hose nearby just in case, because like I said, I have a fence here. You don't want to burn your fence down. You don't want to burn down your neighbors, and you sure don't want to burn your house down. So let's go ahead and give it a try. I have the gas barely on. We are going to just barely crack this open right down here at the bottom, the mixing valve. You'll hear just a little bit of a hiss. So you just want to hear a little bit right there. There you go. Now you can trigger it. So we are going to turn this down just a little bit, just a little bit of gas. There we go. What we're going to do, turn this back up just a little. Yep, I'm good there. Then I'll back it off a little on the control knob. Let's see where that puts it. That's pretty good. And stop. So now it's working perfectly. Let's go do some front.
Overall, I think it's a great system. If I was rating it on a scale of 1 to 5, I'd give it 5 stars. So do yourself a favor and pick yourself up one today. I don't think you'll regret it. We'll see you guys on the next review.